racial crimes, they're all about a percentage or two off from each other. Black people killing black people killing black people or committing interracial violent crimes at about 33%. White people also about 32 to 33%. Hispanics about 34%, I believe. Actually, they were right around 30%. And others. So you see there's no disparity, there's no disparity in the number whatsoever. However, we keep touting the narrative that there is this issue or a pandemic in the black community where there is not. So the question I got to ask you, Free, because this one has bothered me a lot. Why have black communities accepted this narrative so much?
Well, I think when you look at the power of media, the press, as you say, when you get into per capita, because we are quote unquote a minority, it makes your numbers more alarming as that percentage applies to your demographic. So we can't paint it like it's not an issue, but like I say, 30%, 33%, 32% is 32%. So it speaks, I think. But when you have a media entertainment that pushes a narrative, as you stated earlier, then you get the repercussions of it or the outcomes of it. And I think we feed into the press because let's be honest, a lot of things and how we got our news was entertainment, media, music, culture, as well as the basic newspaper outlets and everything. So whatever narrative they chose to push, as we've seen through the history of this country, when we know how newspaper and media propagated so many things and narratives in this country, it's a victimization of that. So then we start feeding into it. And then you look at in the late 80s, early 90s, where we have the shift in hip hop culture, where you
Right.
see more now gangster rap and stuff, and that's coming on. Oh, now they say, oh, see, look at the violence in the music, and now it just adds on to the picture that's painted. And then for culture, because people have a story, we see this in video, movies, and now we say, oh, it's implanted now. Yeah, black on black. Yeah, we do have problems in the hood, but like you said, you look at numbers outside and the percentages are same. So percentages don't lie.
And the
But
percentages
there's
don't
a
lie.
difference. Yeah, but it's a difference in when you look at per capita. But
But
you know,
yeah, but they don't lie because here's the thing: is people kill who live closest to them. It's really that simple. And what the numbers should tell you is that we live in a very much segregated country still. And that's not a hard concept to grasp when you really think about it. Because when you look at, like, for example, looking at the statistics from the FBI.gov 2016, when you evaluate that table, white people have killed 300 more of themselves in violent crimes than black people did in 2016. But again, we're talking about the per capita. There's a total, and then there's the number of African Americans who were murdered by other African Americans. That was 2,500 of a total of 2,800 that committed crimes. In the white community, that's different. There's 3,500 violent crimes, and 2,800 of those violent crimes were created on other white. The victims were white. So you have, so again, but again, this shouldn't shock you because there are more of them here. So of course their numbers are going to be higher, which takes me to Rudy Giuliani. And trust me, people, when you hear the solo segment, which is a 5 minute monologue called "Sit Your Ass Down," excuse my French, there's going to be a lot of cursing on that one. I'm not cursing now because my brother Be Free is a pastor. You don't play that much. We can't do
But
that on
I'm
this
a
show.
I'm a radio show host
Yeah,
here. No, I'm joking.
but otherwise I'd be cursing like crazy right now. So I'm being very tongue tied. But
Thank
my
you, bro.
point is that what we have here is people's ability to change the narratives, because what Rudy Giuliani did was say recently how there were more white people killed by police officers than black people in 2000, either 18 or 19. I can't remember exactly which one he quoted, but we went back and we looked it up. And Giuliani, and this is where people throw you the bone and make you fight over BS, because what he said is true. There were 24 white people killed by police officers, and there were 14 black people killed by police officers that year. Whichever one it was either 18 or 19. Not sure. Here's what's important. What he did was he used the raw number to fit the narrative of, well, it's happening to us more, but not at a per capita rate like you would use for the so-called black on black crime. And then he actually went into black on black crime and used the per capita rate literally to fit his agenda for two separate arguments where neither he had any, because it doesn't work if you understand statistics at least a little bit. That does not fly. None of what he said does not matter, because here's the overall point in the environment that we're in. I don't give a damn how many white people died last year. The number I heard that was more glaring to me was 38 people got killed by police officers in 2018 and 19. That's what I heard. And in the environment that we're in right now, we're talking about police overusing force. I don't care that it was more white people than black people last year. What I care about is that 38 people were murdered at the head and were unarmed. So let me make sure I add this little caveat. The statistic is based on unarmed Americans were murdered by police last year at the number of 38.
Yeah.
This is where I'm going to go colorblind, because the conversation is about the overuse of force, not what color they were. Now, because of the per capita argument, if you want to have it, this is the reason why Black Lives Matter is out as much as they are, because it's happening to us with more frequency. And that's also a number that you can't ignore because of how it happens. And when you have small children being murdered by police officers, like Tamir Rice, for example, playing in a park with a toy gun, I don't know what else to tell you.
Yeah.
Other
Well, once again, though, it leads back to the narrative that has been painted. And when you paint certain communities, certain parts of town, certain groups with certain imagery, then it leads to all these issues, i.e., more so people of color, black and brown individuals and lower socioeconomic communities have been painted as violent individuals. They hyper focus on the violent crimes that happen. So therefore, subconsciously, we come and say, okay, when I deal with this group, we're dealing with a violent group. But when you look at the data comparison, it happens everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So now that's where it comes into, like you said, the number we should be looking at also is that, man, 38 people were killed, unarmed people were killed. Like, what is going on with this police force as a whole? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It seems that they fed into certain narratives, or they feel a certain complacency or forthrightness to do certain activities, because when you do something over and over again, that indicates to me like there's a sense of capability to do it, or a sense of security in doing it, or no sense of repercussion from that thereof. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, uh, we have to look at ways of getting qualified personnel to train individuals on de-escalation. Because even in the midst of what our nation is going through, we still see more and more incidents happening, and we got to figure this out. So, I not to beat the dead horse, but I just had to throw that in.
You know what we need to do?
Was that?
Here's what we need to do. We need to for one. I've never understood how you could be trained to be a de-escalation expert, which is what they want police officers to be, by only doing a few months in of training, when attorneys have to go for 3 years or 2 years of law school. Like the training should be at least a year. At least it should be at least a year. But that's number one. But two, they need to go through the psych exam, and the first question in the psych exam should be, were you bullied in high school? Because honestly, what a lot of these guys are the guys that were bullied in high school. Here's what I also say to you people who are out there shaking your heads, saying, "Yeah, those are the ones. Yeah, that's the one." And I just caught myself from cursing. I want you to let you all know that's how important this man is to me. I had to stop myself from cursing because I wanted to say some choice words for you who are nodding your head in agreements. Stop bullying people, man. I'm one of those people who I never like seeing people be bullied in school. I wasn't the type to bully other people. Like, I know your life is hard, or your life was hard. Yeah, we get it. You don't have to make it hard for everybody else because you don't like what's going on in your situation. Focus on you, and you won't think about anybody else. But if you weren't bullying these jokers, we wouldn't have so many of them that are there. But I also won't act like and ignore that this is the only problem, because the other problem is we're hiring racist people to be in the police force. Because if you hadn't heard by now, there was a recording, which I would love to know who recorded this conversation, of 3 police officers in Wilmington, North Carolina, which Wilmington, North Carolina is also the birthplace of another massacre that took place, I think, in, what was that, 1861?
1898.
1898? Okay. So it was, and they were saying, I can't wait to put all those niggers, I can't wait to do a mass murder and wipe niggers off the face of the earth. This was police officers. And
well, let me clarify. We don't. It was one in particular that made that statement. But it goes back to, like you said, I wonder who recorded it. But let's think about how many of these conversations have been had by officers that weren't caught on video.
Yes, sir.
Or weren't exposed. And I look at even here in Greensboro, and where we've had incidents of discrimination within the police department, internally, where you've had discrimination. So we look at the history of that, and then how do we think that may not carry over into the streets of who they're policing. So it's scary to know that. And when you read the stuff, because it is public record, they made it public record what the conversation was. It's scary to know that. And the individual's name, they tried to put it on just the height and the pressure with everything going on with protests and everything. But when you look at the statements, and it was kind of apples and oranges to me. And they still tried to say, well, we're not racist. But when you talk about possibly setting a people back 5 or 6 generations,
man, listen,
because you're planning to buy an assault rifle in the next couple of weeks, it's scary. It's scary to think, even if you were just hyping it and it was hyperbole, you just don't do that. You don't do that. That's your thoughts for your home. And I pray that
I
that
mean,
God touches